Hey everybody, it's MJ back again with another video here on Just Plain Fun. And today I'm going to be talking about the Sweetheart era. And depending on which book you read, started in around 1920-ish and ran through the mid 1930s. And so I'm going to be talking mostly about the various logos that had the SW trademark, but we'll cover a couple other things to go along with that. So what I've got on the table here is the excerpt, or rather the open page for the original type study done by Roger K. Smith. And then above that is actually a book that was written on the history of Stanley. And it's the Legend of Stanley Works, the Legend of Stanley, 150 years of Stanley Works. And this is one of those little known facts. Stanley Works and the Stanley Rule Level Company were separate companies for about 70-ish years. They were growing kind of side by side. And then it was in about 1920 when they merged. It was 1919 when they started talking about it, and then about 1920 when they actually merged. And then in that same time frame, 1921-ish, they actually held a contest and had a bunch of employees submit ideas for the new logo or new trademark to go along with the merger. And so that was when the Sweetheart logo was developed. The SW, of course, Stanley Works. And then the heart was actually designed to honor William Hart, who had worked for Stanley Works for a very, very long time. Pretty much spent his entire adult life working for Stanley Works, and he had retired around that time frame, and so that's why they wanted to honor him with this particular logo or trademark. And the reason why I said it depends on which book you want to refer to is because per the original type study, Roger K. Smith said that the X Trademark appeared for the first time in 1920, or on planes that were manufactured in 1920. But the Legend of Stanley actually says that they didn't put that on there until 1921. I mean, tomato, tomato, we're talking about a year difference. But while we're on that subject of the X logo, this is what it looks like. And the main thing that you're looking for there is the New Britain, Connecticut, USA. So that's how you know that it is the X logo, as you see right there in the book. But that's no kidding what it looks like when it's actually on the iron. So per the type study, that's just 1920. And then this one is the Y logo, and as you can see, the reference to Connecticut is gone. More specifically, the reference to New Britain, Connecticut is gone. And then if you look super close, you can see that the SW, the heart there, is encroaching. It's pushed up into the Stanley there, and you can see the ANL is a little bit smaller, and that is to accommodate the heart that rolls up in there. And of course the Made in USA down below it. So that's going to be your Y logo, or the Y trademark, and so that's going to be 1921, 1922 time frame. And then the most common one is going to be your AA trademark, and that was stamped on the irons from 1923 through 1935. And that is what that one looks like. And as you can see, the heart has dropped down a little bit. Stanley is all the same font or the same size there, so it does not shrink in order to accommodate the heart. And so the way that translates into the type studies is that type 12, what we now consider the type 12 era, was from 1919 to 1924. So that X and that Y logo would have all fallen into the type 12 era. And so of course, I've got the type study videos in work. I just haven't made the type 11 and type 12 video yet, but they'll be forthcoming. The main takeaway is that your X and your Y trademark are only going to show up in your type 12 era. And then when we get into the type 13s, that's when you're going to have the AA logo already being used. Hence the reason why it's the most common one, because it was stamped on there for many years. And it actually goes through type 13, type 14, into type 15. And per the original type study, type 15 was just 1931 and 1932. And since the AA logo was used all the way through 1935. That means that some of the early Type 16s would have actually had the SW logo, more specifically the AA logo. I don't see as many of those. As a matter of fact, I don't know of anybody that's putting the AA logo on their Type 16s, but per the original type study, it would actually be appropriate. And just to be 100% clear on that, the type study does say the BB trademark was introduced in 1936, which would have been 3 years into the Type 16 era. And I've got some lever caps here. This is going to be the lever cap that you're going to see on a Type 12, and of course that will be discussed in the Type 11/Type 12 video. But there's something special about this particular lever cap I'm going to show you in just a second. And then this is going to be the lever cap that you're going to see on your Type 13s and Type 14s right here, with a keyhole with just the Stanley on it. And as you can see, this one, unfortunately, the leading edge has been modified, probably to take a chip out or something. But what's interesting about this little guy is that one actually has, it's very, very faint, and there are some far, far better examples out there. But this would have been from a later Type 12 lever cap, or from a later Type 12 plane. And if you look real close, you can see that there's an ever so slight, just the outline of the SW logo there. And like I said, there are some really, really good examples out there. I've actually owned some, but I've always sold them. By the time I do the Type 11 and 12 video, I'll borrow one from a friend so y'all can see what a really good one looks like. But those are fairly uncommon, scarce. I wouldn't go so far as to call them rare, because that's, it gets people's feathers ruffled, but we'll call it scarce. But the main takeaway from the video is, of course, the merger of the Stanley Rule Level Company with Stanley Works, and it just became just Stanley Works. And that was in the early 1920s, and then they did the logos. And so now I'm wondering if any of my beloved sweetheart collectors are going and looking more closely at their irons. I imagine most of y'all probably already knew that, but just for fun, drop a comment here on YouTube or on Just Plain Fun, the parts division over on Facebook, and just let me know. And if y'all have any questions or anything, if you're looking for any references, whatever the case, or if you just want to generate a good, healthy discussion, of course, the comment sections are always open. So I'll see y'all around.